here, probably the items on the Pokemon as well, but let's get into the game and take a look at what exactly these trainers ended up bringing to this particular battle, which is just going to be standard VGC, and I'm really excited to kick it off with Lou bringing that Pikachu as well as the Indeedee, and Adam kicking things off with Gothitelle and Durant. No switches may be able to happen here, depending on what that Gothitelle's ability is.
Yeah, I really like the lead from Lou's end, basically saying, okay, even if you have Durant, which is, kind of the most oppressive Pokemon on your team, I can at least redirect an attack away, Dynamax or Gigantamax the Pikachu, and then just go for the signature G-Max attack to get paralysis off here. So the Indeedee not only provides redirection support, but it also sets up that psychic terrain, so you can't even go for something like a Fake Out. So Gothitelle here, kind of in a tricky spot. Can't really do very much other than maybe go for a Psychic, and Adam doesn't have Max Guard on that Durant, so Pikachu could pretty easily just go for Gigantamax, Follow Me, and then just, go for the signature attack into Durant. I think one thing that Lou has to debate is whether or not you're worried about Trick Room going up from Gothitelle's end, because a lot of Gothitelles do carry it. Of course, Adam's doesn't, but that's still something you might have to be worried about.
Yeah, I would be worried about that speed too, but I might be worried a little bit more about this Durant that's going to Dynamax on the field, especially given that Durant has that ability Hustle, which allows it to have physical moves increased in power. Then you're packing a big punch when it comes to Dynamaxing that Durant, since you don't get the accuracy drop from max moves. But Lou looks like they're matching that. Gigantamax Pikachu hitting the field.
So no surprise to see that its effect is actually so good here, because if you can paralyze the Durant, you effectively shut it down, because you can just outspeed it with every Pokemon on that side of the team.
Yeah, so the Follow Me ends up being really important, so it can really protect Pikachu in order to get the paralysis off with its signature G-Max move. So Max Quake first, going right into that Follow Me Indeedee, and that's going to keep Pikachu very, very safe. But most importantly, you're increasing the special defense of both Durant and Gothitelle, which will make a mark in terms of what this Pikachu is able to do in terms of damage. So here's that signature G-Max move, does so much damage, but here's that secondary effect of that paralysis from both Pokemon.
Yeah, a lot of damage there, and the Gothitelle gets fully paralyzed, which means Indeedee sticks around the field for another turn, means that the Pikachu will be fully protected once again, and what makes this really tricky for Adam is that he doesn't even have the Max Guard in Durant, but so it can just really feint to another attack. Even with that special defense boost, Durant still takes so much damage from that Volt Crash. So no Trick Room going up there. Lou might be content to just go for like a Follow Me and a Volt Crash into the Durant, pick up a knockout, and get rid of the biggest threat on Adam's team, because Adam just doesn't have that much offense once the Durant goes down. So I think a really good lead on Lou's end, safe and good turn one play from her end, and she's got a lot of momentum now.
Helping hand, just making sure that Pikachu can do a little bit of extra damage as G-Max Volt Crash comes out once again, this time into the Gothitelle, and still does a hefty chunk of damage, and Durant is paralyzed.
Yeah, that's a big paralysis there, denying it from any damage. Durant's one of those Pokemon that you really want to get every attack off, and the Indeedee actually survives as well. So Lou making the decision to actually go for the Helping Hand Volt Crash, probably expecting the Durant to go for Protect. But as we can see, it doesn't actually have Protect. However, it's attack that most Durants carry, so I think definitely a fair assumption there. But the Durant gets fully paralyzed, doesn't get a single attack off there, and now Lou can pretty safely target that slot, and you could pretty easily just go for something like a Follow Me and a Volt Crash to just pick up the KO on Durant. Once again, I think Durant is by far the strongest Pokemon on Adam's team, so the fact that was denied an attack this last turn through the full paralysis is such a big deal. It's one of the reasons why G-Max Pikachu is actually really viable. Paralyzing everything on your opponent's team just makes it that much harder to actually get attacks off every turn.
Well, the survive on the Indeedee was really important last turn, because it can use Follow Me again just in case something does survive through this G-Max Volt Crash. But as we saw the amount of damage that happened before onto Durant, the second hit from G-Max Volt Crash is going to be enough to get the knockout.
Yeah, Durant really not a very bulky Pokemon. No way could really survive that, and that's just a super safe play on Lou's end, as the Psychic here will trade the knock it onto the Indeedee. So, overall, I think Lou gets the better end of the trade out of the Dynamax, because Durant's a Pokemon that really wants to pick up multiple KOs while it is Dynamax. Then, in the end, it was only able to effectively knock out that Indeedee, so that full paralysis allowing for Lou to just really not take too much damage from the Durant in those couple of turns. So now I really have to ask how Adam's going to be able to actually deal with all the offense from Lou's end, because Lou has so many really strong Pokemon. Ninetales, I think, an excellent Pokemon to switch in here for those same type of attack bonus, Heat Waves. And with the Psychic Terrain still up, Scrafty can't even go for a Fake Out right now. So the Intimidate doesn't really work. The Fake Out can't do anything right now either. And Pikachu and Ninetales are actually just exerting so much offense right now.
I love G-Max Pikachu. It's definitely one of my favorite Pokemon to play with, and you can kind of see why those paralyses end up being so important, but you can also feel the effects of how strong Indeedee can be with that Psychic Terrain coming up so early in the game, just because it does deny the use of that Fake Out, and that is going to be really difficult for Adam to kind of claw back out, and that is going to be really difficult for Adam to kind of claw back into this one, as Ninetales goes for a Heat Wave, and Gothitelle survives though.
Oh, the Brick Break actually coming out from Pikachu. Not an attack you see very often on it.
No, not really, but here's one that you can see most often on to Scrafty is going to be that Crunch, and just a Psychic to follow up, knowing that Ninetales is going to be one of the biggest damage dealers for Lou, but it still survives through both of those attacks.
What makes this really tough for Adam is that he doesn't have Trick Room on Gothitelle. Trick Room is an attack that you often see on Gothitelle. I think if Adam actually had it, he'd be in a very favorable position because you can just overwhelm Lou's Pokemon with Scrafty and Gothitelle. Scrafty and Gothitelle are not exactly super offensive, but Pikachu and Ninetales aren't very defensive, but a Heat Wave is able to double connect on both Pokemon here. So I think without the ability to set up Trick Room, Adam's in a really tough spot.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because in a lot of VGC battles, it really does matter whether or not you have control of the speed, so your Pokemon can go first. You can see how Paralysis set Lou up into such a great position because her Pokemon ended up moving fastest on the field, just able to take out those offensive threats on Adam's team.
Yeah, I'm really curious what Lou's last Pokemon is, because if it's that Charizard, the Rotom Heat actually could put in some work right now, but it's Excadrill, an excellent last Pokemon to have on Lou's end there, as Rotom comes out. This is not a very bulky Rotom, and it's Mold Breaker Excadrill, which means it can just go for a super effective ground-type attack and pick up the knockout onto Rotom. So, really good, I think, Pokemon choices by Lou here. I think if she had Charizard in the back, it actually might have been pretty tough to win against Rotom, but yeah, I think, you know, the Scrafty is actually proving that it's really bulky, able to take multiple attacks, and Lou opting for that Brick Break. It doesn't actually do very much damage. She's not going for the electric type attacks. I'm wondering if it's something like a Thunder, which is obviously not very accurate. She's just going for guaranteed damage. But with Excadrill being Lou's last one, I think she's in a very favorable position. She could easily just click an Earthquake to pick up a double knockout. If she doesn't have Earthquake, though, and has high horsepower, she's going to have to hope to not miss, but if Excadrill has a Focus Sash, she can even potentially take a miss at this point. So overall, like you mentioned, speed control was just so important. Adam not having the Trick Room was such a big deal. And there's just Earthquake coming out from Mold Breaker Excadrill. 3 knockouts in 1 turn.
Wow, what an explosive way to finish off game 1 between Lou and Adam. Even knocking out her own Pikachu in order to take the win. What a fantastic way to do it.
Yeah, I think Lou's lead was really smart. The Pikachu and the Indeedee lead, which we were kind of talking about before going into the match, is exactly what you want to do to check the Durant. Durant not having Protect and Gothitelle not having Trick Room makes this a significantly more difficult matchup for Adam, I think, because if you have Max Guard, you can like potentially max the Durant Guard turn 1 and just waste the turn of Pikachu's Gigantamax and then attack the following turn. Obviously, the full paralysis on Durant in that early game was a really big deal as well. Denying Durant of a single attack is just so huge, and I think the fact that Gothitelle doesn't have Trick Room means that if Adam loses Durant, as we saw after Durant went down, like he had a little bit of damage with Scrafty, Gothitelle, and Rotom, but Lou just has so much hyper offense on her end with the Ninetales, with the Excadrill, so I think a lot of what this matchup breaks down to is all about how you play with the Durant on Adam's end. Hey, he needs to basically get more attacks off and potentially deny the Volt Crush from even happening, but that might be pretty difficult because Adam, with the way his team is built, like really wants to prioritize leading Durant, and there's just really no way you can get around the Indeedee plus Pikachu lead with the follow me pressure. So yeah, I'm curious to see what adjustments Adam makes going into this next game.
Maybe it's not Dynamaxing Durant. Maybe it's bringing out some other Pokemon and let them see the spotlight a little bit. But it is very difficult when you're taking a look at Lou's team and the number of different Pokemon that are just able to dish out damage. I'm really excited to see how Adam decides to kind of, I guess, reapproach this for game 2, as we're going to get right into it and see whether or not anything else changes.
Yeah, I think Rotom Heat as a Dynamax option could be really interesting. You mentioned, you know, Dynamaxing something else, and that actually would pair really well against the Whimsicott and Charizard, so let's see if Adam decided to go with that. It is! Nice!
Ooh! Yeah, the Rotom gonna be hitting the field with that Gothitelle, and Lou bringing out 2 different leads, showing off the versatility of the team with Charizard and Whimsicott.
Yeah, so Lou actually switching it up as well. And, you know, often in a VGC set, when you're up 1 game, you have so much flexibility. You want to think, okay, well, how is my opponent going to counter me? Or you could just say, I'm going to switch up my strategy just because my opponent might not expect it. So the Rotom is actually in a fantastic position right now, able to take attacks from the Charizard and the Whimsicott. But the Rotom actually isn't very bulky, so like you could theoretically like just go for a Dynamax with the Charizard or a Gigantamax and still distribute damage against it. But I think the Rotom at least puts Adam in a much more favorable position this time around, being able to resist attacks from Charizard and Whimsicott. I think Adam didn't reveal Trick Room in that first game, so Lou was probably thinking, okay, he probably doesn't have it, because if he had, he definitely would have gone for it in that last game. But despite going up against Rotom, Charizard here looks like still going to commit the Gigantamax or Dynamax.
Excited to see what it's going to be, and it is going to be just a standard Dynamax here for Lou's Charizard. I'm really excited about seeing that Pokemon, just because this is, again, a show and versatility of what Lou's team can do. But there's a lot of versatility from Adams as well. With no Psychic Terrain, you can go for the Fake Out, so Whimsicott not being able to take a move this turn, and Charizard going for a Max Airstream is going to do a significant chunk of damage to Adam's Gothitelle, but also increase the speed for both itself and Whimsicott.
See what Rotom goes for. It's going to be that Thunderbolt, but with Charizard going for the Dynamax, actually still does so much damage there. This is a rather offensive Rotom, which makes sense given that it doesn't have any HP investment. But yeah, the Fake Out denies Whimsicott from going for something like a Fake Tears, which, you know, often is used, or maybe something like Sunny Day, for example, to boost the Solar Power Charizard. It's a regular Dynamax Charizard instead of the Gigantamax, which is, I think, pretty interesting. Most players tend for that Gigantamax, but of course, one of the upsides of regular Charizard is you can set up the Sun naturally through Fire-type attacks, but looks like Whimsicott's actually just going to take care of that immediately.
Yeah, Sunny Day, so Sunlight going to turn harsh on the field, which is going to give a little bit of extra power to this Max player, and Rotom barely takes it. Able to fire off another Thunderbolt, which is going to do enough damage to knock out Charizard, and that's it for Lou's Dynamax this game.
Yeah, so this time kind of switching things around. Adam still hasn't committed to Dynamax and able to knock out Lou's Dynamax before anything, so I think the Rotom mixed up a really, really smart strategy there. Critical hit there does so much damage to Whimsicott as well, but you know, Lou does get a free switch in. That Excadrill, as we saw in that last game, puts on a lot of pressure. Something like Ninetales would be really good. That is her switch in. Like, Heat Wave is just so good against Adam's team. He doesn't really have anything like in resistance super well outside of that Milotic, and Ninetales sometimes carry, you know, Solar Beam, for example, with the combination of Fake Tears and Sun. Even if you switch in Milotic, it's still going to take a hefty amount. So, you know, I think Lou's still in a okay position. The main thing is that she has to deal with a late game Durant, so you know, she might want to consider setting up Tailwind so that she doesn't have to deal with... She can outspeed the Durant in subsequent turns, but it looks like it's just going to be a Moonblast for now.
Moonblast is going to be enough to pick up the knockout for Adam's Rotom, and that will even the Pokemon score between Lou and Adam. Oh, but this Dark Pulse, that's going to get revealed from Ninetales, but it's not enough to get the knockout onto Gothitelle, so Gothitelle can fire back with a Psychic, and Whimsicott goes down.
Yeah, the Whimsicott goes down, and more importantly, it didn't Tailwind, so if Adam has that Durant, yeah, you can just bring it in, go for a Dynamax. One thing that is tricky, though, is not knowing the items of the Ninetales and the Excadrill. If you're worried about something like a Focus Sash, then even if you go for a Max Rockfall or a Max Quake into the Ninetales, it can just Heat Wave in return if it has a Focus Sash and survives. So for that exact reason, actually, Adam brings in the Scrafty. Doesn't want to play around the potential threat of a Focus Sash. If you go for a Fake Out now until the Ninetales, then you'll be able to break its Focus Sash. So I really like Adam switching to Scrafty here. It works out even better for him because that Excadrill, once again, is Lou's last Pokemon.
Excadrill, another offensive threat on this team, so there's a lot of damage that Lou is presenting on this board, and I don't know how Adam is going to kind of maneuver around this. You can kind of see his thought process a little bit in terms of, okay, maybe I try to just make the safe play, right? I've got my Scrafty on the field, maybe I can just go for Fake Out.
Yeah, I think at this point, all Adam needs to do is just break a potential Focus Sash on Ninetales, and then Durant should win this game comfortably. I think, you know, Lou had the option to go for a Tailwind last turn, which could have really helped her in ensuring that she outspeeds. As the Fake Out actually goes into the Excadrill there, so not targeting Ninetales, interestingly enough.
Oh, so Ninetales is able to fire off a Heat Wave. Yeah, Gothitelle gets knocked out here. Scrafty takes a bit of damage, but I'm interested about Adam's choice in faking out the Excadrill. Maybe just expecting that the Excadrill is going to be more of an offensive threat here, but I would be worried about there being a Focus Sash on that Ninetales.
Yeah, I think, Ninetales and Excadrill are both Pokemon that can carry a Focus Sash. Adam might have been expecting the Protect there from the Ninetales says, okay, I'm just going to target the Excadrill instead. But yeah, what makes this a little bit tricky now is if that Ninetales does have the Focus Sash, it can just survive and get a big Heat Wave off. However, Durant's still exerting so much pressure here, and Adam is in a good position to potentially just pick up a double knockout. He'll be able to change the weather with Rockfall, so even if there's that Focus Sash, he's basically, Lou's gonna need to pick up a KO on Scrafty. The Scrafty is very, very bulky, so I'm not sure even like a Heat Wave and an Iron Head will pick up the knockout into Scrafty, and then Scrafty can just return a knockout onto the Excadrill with a close combat. Oh, here's High Horsepower, and it misses the Scrafty!
Misses. It completely misses, so that Scrafty going to be around for another big turn, and here's the Max Rockfall. Is that the Pokemon that has a Focus Sash? It looks like it is. Ninetales gets a chance to hang on.
Yeah, Excadrill moving before the Durant there as well, not something that you see very often, especially with the Mold Breaker set, so most likely carrying the Choice Scarf item, which is super interesting.
Wow, but a huge Heat Wave. That is a one-hit knockout for Adam's Durant, so gets a chance to Dynamax and get that Rockfall, but that's about all it's going to be able to do. Setting up the Sand was important, though, because that is going to be able to do the last bit of trip onto Lou's Ninetales. So it looks like it's going to be Scrafty taking this one.
It is, yeah. The Scrafty with close combat, actually, a really strong offensive option. In previous years, we've seen Scrafty in VGC. It was built, rather defensively. It would use something like Drain Punch, but now having access to close combat, it's able to do a significant amount of damage. So I think the lead was really important. Both the first and the second game felt like whoever had the better lead matchup was able to bring that momentum into their favor and just win the game off that. So Lou opting not to bring the Pikachu this time around and opting for Charizard. However, Charizard itself doesn't have a very good matchup against the Rotom. And of course, we saw the Rotom able to hang on with just 7 HP and get another Thunderbolt to knock out the Charizard. It was such a big deal. So I think for both of these players, it's basically how effective are you able to use your Dynamax / Gigantamax. I think from Lou's end, if you're expecting a Rotom Heat to come out again, you could maybe lead the Excadrill. I think Sun in the back is a really good option, and what is also really important is potentially getting Tailwind off. In that last game, Lou didn't Tailwind, and that meant that the Ninetales would be slower than the Durant. If you end up going for a Tailwind instead of Moonblasting with Whimsicott and the turn Whimsicott fainted, then you're able to guarantee outspeed the Durant for the subsequent turns. So I think speed control, we've been talking about it a bunch in this set. I think still very, very important. And in terms of leads, I think things are really important as well. Lou might consider leading that Excadrill this time around to counter the Mold Breaker use that Mold Breaker to counter the Rotom. And on Adam's end, if you think, okay, she's not going to go with Pikachu again, maybe you can actually play a little bit more aggressively, call her out on that, and actually just go back to your Durant lead.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. I mean, that's kind of the mind games that you have to play when you're playing a best of 3, right? Is because all the teams that we usually see in VGC are so versatile, what are the leads? Especially when you see teams that have multiple leads. What do? Do you go with the play of, well, I think my opponent's going to do this, so maybe I try to counter that? Or do you just go with what your game plan is? It's really difficult to kind of tell, but we'll see whether or not Lou and Adam decide to make any changes going into this game 3 and what they're going to do.
Yeah, I'm really curious if Mold Breaker Excadrill comes out as a lead, because that counters the Rotom really hard, but it's actually just a back to basics with Pikachu and Indeedee. And we get the Durant, but this time with the Whimsicott.
Okay, I like this. I like this for both players. We mentioned how important that this lead can be for Lou, but I really like the Whimsicott paired with the Durant too for Adam.
Yeah, I think Lou probably gets the more favorable end of this trade-off, mainly because once again, Pikachu is out, can just go for a Follow Me and a Volt Crash into the Durant, so at least what Adam's able to do, like you mentioned with that Whimsicott lead, is able to set up a Tailwind so that Tailwind basically counteracts the paralysis and your Durant's basically just at regular speed. Of course, you still have to attack through the full paras, but I think a Whimsicott is an excellent adjustment relative to that Gothitelle, especially because that Gothitelle didn't even have Trick Room. Can't really do anything, can't Fake Out because of that Psychic terrain, so I really like the decision to bring out Whimsicott. I think Adam recognizing, okay, the threat of Sun or Fire-type Pokemon under Tailwind is really scary from Lou's end, so let me just make sure I can at least counteract both the paras from the Pikachu as well as the Fire-type Pokemon by setting up a Tailwind of my own.
Well, I don't think it becomes any surprise to anyone if we're going back to basics to see that both of the offensive threats on either team are going to Dynamax and Gigantamax respectively here. Adam's Durant going to be posing a pretty big threat now, as the Indeedee is going to take that away from Pikachu again with a Follow Me, as Whimsicott does click that Tailwind, and that is going to be able to counteract a potential Paralyze coming out from Lu's end. But Max Flutterby now. Ooh, I really like that change, expecting the Follow Me from Indeedee.
Yeah, that's a really good play there, because now you get the knockout, you get Tailwind up, and even if Volt Crash goes into the Durant, we'll actually have to see if it can pick up a one-hit KO, because there's no special defense boost this time. Let's see. I'm actually really curious about this. It doesn't do very much damage, though.
No,
especially actually no, because of the special attack drop. Yeah, so it's basically like the same thing as getting that special defense boost. So, yeah, misspeaking a little bit there, my bad. But yeah, at least like this time on Adam's end, he has the Tailwind up, so this Durant's actually still able to, you know, go first, especially because we know that Ninetales is in Choice Scarf that has that Focus Sash, so you can get one big attack off before Feints here. And Whimsicott, you know, with that Focus Sash can also get some damage off. You can actually outspeed both Pokemon with Whimsicott and Durant right now, so a double up I think makes a lot of sense onto one Pokemon right now just to guarantee a KO. So I think Adam making a really good adjustment by bringing Whimsicott this time around.
Yeah, I really like the Tailwind, and I really like the Max Flutterby play. I think that was a really smart lead and a smart choice for Adam to go with, and just going with the Max Rockfall again, just to ensure this knockout onto Ninetales. I think that's also incredibly brilliant, just making sure that Ninetales can't pressure any more of those heat waves.
Yeah, most importantly there for Adam, he doesn't get paralyzed on either Pokemon. A single paralysis there would be a really big deal, because it means that the Ninetales survives and gets a Heat Wave off, especially if that paralysis is coming from Durant. But Durant gets one big attack off before fainting this time around, so you know, Durant was able to do a lot more in this game than it was able to do in that first game, where it picked up 2 knockouts, and right now Adam still has Tailwind up, so you know what's in the back can take advantage of that Tailwind as well, and Whimsicott's still outspeeding the Pikachu despite the paralysis, so I think great mix-ups by Adam, and yeah, with that Rotom Heat in the back, able to not get paralyzed by Volt Crash at all, can take damage decently well with Tailwind up. You also outspeed everything on Lu's end right now, so you can pretty easily double up into whatever's coming in. Probably that Excadrill. We know that Excadrill doesn't even have a Focus Sash, like an Overheat might just pick up the knockout onto it, so I think Adam's actually in a really commanding position now.
Well, that's interesting. It's not every day that you see a Whimsicott with Charm.
It's been a while, yeah. I think, you know, I was able to win the Dallas Regional Championships, I believe, very early on in the season, but now not used very often. And the paralysis does come out, but Tailwind is up, so Rotom's able to connect with that Overheat. That should just pick up the KO on Excadrill and I think seal up this game.
Yeah, it's going to leave Lu with one Pokemon left, that Gigantamax Pikachu. But I don't know if that's going to be enough after taking out all of its supportive partners, even though it's showing off Max Geyser here.
Oh, and the Rotom survives.
Yeah.
Big survival there. I think if you pick up the knockout there, then your win condition might be to... I mean, there's still a Scrafty in the back, so it's really tough, especially because Pikachu's revealed it has an electric type attack, a water type attack, a grass type attack, and a fighting type attack, so it doesn't even have something like Protect on itself. But it's pretty much impossible to win 3v1 with Pikachu at this point, and I think this time around Adam just played really smartly with the Durant. Flutterby is a move that a lot of players who run Durant don't play, and instead they opt for something like a Protect for those max guards, but instead having it this time meant that he could lower the Pikachu special attack safely while also getting the knockout onto that Indeedee.
Well, here's Dark Pulse and Moonblast. It's going to be enough to pick up the final knockout, so Adam's going to take the 3rd game of the set and the series between Adam and Lu.
Yeah, that was an exciting set. We saw a lot of mix-ups and adjustments from both players. You can see kind of how